today, and it's the new year and I've been doing some organizing. And one of the things I've been doing is making some linings for baskets around the house. And this one in particular is in need of it. This has gotten pretty dingy. So I'll show you exactly how to measure a basket and create the lining that will fit nicely inside. So let's get started and I'll show you the project. You'll want to measure the sides of your basket, the long side here and the shorter side. You'll want to measure the depth and then the size of the bottom of the basket. My long side, I'll measure right along the top, is 11.5 inches long. I'll add 1/2 inch to that 11.5 inches to be cutting at 12 inches long. My more narrow side is 8.5 inches. I'll add 1/2 inch to that to be cutting at 9 inches long. I'll flip the basket over and I'll measure the depth. It's right at 5.5 inches. To that I'll add 1/2 inch for seam allowance to bring it to 6. And then I'll add 2 inches to that to bring it up to 8 inches so you have a little bit of an overhang over the side of the basket. And then lastly, you want to measure the bottom of the basket. And it's 9.5 inches long. Bring that up to 10 inches with the 1/2 inch seam allowance. And it's almost 7 inches, so I'll round it up to 7 inches and add 1/2 inch to that to bring that up to 7.5 inches. And it might be helpful for you to draw out a diagram. I did this on the computer, but you can do it by hand. I just didn't want to have you suffer with my handwriting. So I have my long sides, and this is the cutting diagram. So it has all my 1/2 inch seam allowances included. So I have my long side, 12 inches long by 8 inches deep, my short side, 9 inches long by 8 inches deep, and then the bottom, 10 inches by 7.5 inches. And you can see that from the top to the bottom, the size changes. From this long side here, 12 inches, it goes down to 10 inches, and on the short side, it goes from 9 inches down to 7.5 inches. And then I'll show you how to taper them down so they'll meet the bottom perfectly. I have my pieces all cut out, and I just wanted to show you, here's my long pieces here, my long sides here and here, and here's the bottom. And what I'll be needing to do is taper this 12 inches right along here down to 10 inches to meet my bottom. And I'll show you that in just a second, but basically all you have to do, it's a 2-inch difference, so I'll just be taking 1 inch off each end here, and I'll just start at the corner at the top, and using my ruler, just take a straight line right here, down to my 1 inch, and cut that off, and that'll provide just the exact tapering I need, so these will be the same size. And I'll do the same exact thing on my short sides. It's 9 inches long, and this is 7.5 inches. So I'll have to taper 1.5 inches, 7.5 to 9 inches. So I'll come in 3/4 of an inch on each side. Again, the same thing. Measure over, draw a dot, and just cut that off at 3/4 of an inch from here down to here. I'll start by trimming down my long sides. I'll move these out of the way, and I'll cut them both at the same time. Again, I'm going from 12 inches here down to 10 inches. Okay, you can actually use the markings on your cutting mat if you have a cutting mat available, and just simply place your ruler starting on your upper corner, and then place the ruler right here at the 1 inch mark, and then simply cut a line from here to here. Or if you don't have a cutting mat, you can just use your ruler, measure over 1 inch from your bottom corner, and just put a little dot, and then measure from your dot to the upper corner and cut from here to here. And then you would simply repeat that process on the other side. Line up the corner at the 1 inch mark, put a little dot, and then line it up in this way. Match up your dot in the corner and cut. Okay, I will just swing this around. Make sure they're nice and lined up. I have my 1 inch mark. It's good here and here. And cut. And I'll repeat that on this side. My 1 inch mark. Place my ruler right at the corner and cut. Now you can see that they match up perfectly. I'll repeat that same process with my shorter sides. This time, instead of 1 inch, I only need to mark in 3/4 of an inch on each side, since I'm going from 9 inches tapered down to 7.5 inches. To construct the liner, I will put the bottom aside just for the time being. And you're simply matching up like so, right sides together. And pin. And then I'll do the other 2 sides. Now, one thing you need to do when you're sewing these together is sew from the bottom. And what you want to do is start sewing 1/4 of an inch from the bottom. So I just make a little mark at 1/4 of an inch. I'll repin. I'll sew 1/4 of an inch seam starting here all the way down. I'll repeat that with my other set of sides. Here's my bottom, so I'll flip it around, mark at 1/4 of an inch. I'll sew the same exact thing from my mark at 1/4 of an inch all the way down. And I will place my needle as close as I can right on my mark. There's some wiggle room here. All you're doing is you're starting 1/4 inch from the bottom, so it'll be possible to attach your bottom panel. And I'll backstitch to secure, and then 1/4 inch seam right to the very end. And tie off. And I'll repeat that with my other short side and long side. I have 1 each of my short side and long sides attached. So now I'll attach the 2 pieces together. And again, you just want to make sure you're attaching a long side to a short side. Right sides together. Again, same thing, sew from your bottom. I'll mark 1/4 of an inch and sew 1/4 of an inch seam allowance right down here. I have my 1/4 inch mark right here. I'll drop my needle on my line. Secure my stitch. and tie off. Now that I have my 4 sides sewn together, I'll connect my first side to the last side. And again, it's a short side to a long side, right sides together. Same exact thing. I'll start 1/4 inch from the bottom and sew all the way to the top. Now I'll begin attaching my bottom panel to my side panels. And I have my bottom here. And I'll just flip this around so I can sew right sides together, and I have a long side here and a long edge of my bottom panel. And because we left 1/4 inch free right here, we can line up exactly like so. And all I do, if you can see that, is I just fold that at an angle right out of the way. I will pin, and the other end I will also pin in place, the same exact thing. I will just fold that right out of the way, line up my edges, and pin. And you can continue on, do your next short side, line up, fold that right out of the way and pin. Line up the next long side. Pin, and then your last side is already pinned in place, and maybe just add an extra pin right in the middle. And I'll take it to the machine. I'll go all the way around 1/4 inch along all 4 sides of the bottom. I'll sew my first side. And I like to just sew one section of the bottom at a time and then clip off my threads and do the next side. But you can continue on. It's just a little hard for me to do that. So I'll just do one at a time. And you start right at the bottom and secure your stitches. Line up. Coming up to the end, line up again, and tie off, securing the stitches. Again, you can keep sewing around if you like. I just prefer to do it this way. And line up. Line up. And I'll place the liner in my basket so I can show you what that looks like. Okay. And that's what it looks like on the inside. And I don't want to leave this edge raw, so I will flip under probably about 1/4 of an inch, like so. I'll give it a press, and then I'll sew with about 1/8 of an inch seam allowance right along the 4 edges here. Okay, again, flipping over about 1/4 of an inch. And I'm just kind of eyeballing this. If you want it to be exact, go ahead and measure. And I will continue on pressing all 4 sides. I have it all pressed under, and I've switched to some coordinating red thread. And I'll just go all the way around the top. And for the optional tie for the front, you'll cut a piece 2.5 inches wide by about 20 to 21 inches long. And press wrong sides together in half. And then fold each side in to meet your crease. And press. And then fold again. And press. And I'll take it to the machine. I'll sew about 1/8 of an inch seam allowance right along the edge. And again, I'm using my red thread to coordinate with my fabric. And this tie just takes about 5 minutes to make. I have my liner in the basket. I've folded my tie in half, and I will just place it where I would like the tie. That looks about good. Give it a pin. I'll take it to the machine and just use a couple of stitches to tack it into place. And I'll remove my pin. And again, just a couple stitches. That's it. And tie, however your favorite technique to tie a bow. And you can use pinking shears to clip off your ends if you like. There you have it, an easy do-it-yourself project that brings new life into an old basket. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.